Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. The reason why it's called that is that on this channel, we talk about everyday issues trying to find solutions. Unfortunately, not everyone uses logic. For that reason, um, it is called Uncommon Sense. Right now, we're currently live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope on Twitter. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm in the process of trying to get that rectified. It's not a problem with the Wi-Fi. It's a problem with the router that I have. Now, tonight's topic is going to be how we handle grief, and we have a special guest. So before I let my special guest in, I'm going to of course read the disclaimer. The views of the guests who appear are not necessarily the views of the host of the channel. Any attempt to copy the material without the consent of the host, Jose Negron, or the channel on Common Sense with Jose Negron is prohibited. By appearing on the call, you waive the rights to, to, to your image on the channel. Some of the views my guests may hold may be considered offensive to some viewers. Those who appear to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs will be removed from the panel and forever banned from of Uncommon Sense. If you do not like the contact, you can block the channel. And now we're going to learn our special guest.
How you doing, Jose? How are you? Are you
Good
there?
evening, Tim. Yeah,
Good
can you hear
evening. Good
me?
evening. Yeah, I can hear you. You're cutting off a little, but I can hear you.
Yes. Yeah. Again, I've been plagued with problems with my internet service. It's oops.
Mm. There you go. There you go. Seems like it's on. I can. There we go. There we go. We're having a little technical difficulties, so we'll be on in a bit. Think you got it.
Okay. Oh dear.
Oh yeah, there's a delay.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
The se-
I
Go ahead.
apologize. I've been having a lot of trouble with my service. So, I've been trying to get that rectified. So I do apologize for the delay. First of all, good evening. Good afternoon, Tim. Thank you very much for um, being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Okay. Um, the topic for tonight is how to deal with grief. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I chose to discuss it is because the fact of the matter is um, that's something that we cannot avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And eventually, all of us will be affected by either the death of a loved one or the loss of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, there are different approaches to try to deal with grief.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought we would discuss it using the clinical approach,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean grief.
which is why I asked you to be here this afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, I mean grief. I mean everyone takes grief a little differently. And even different mentors that I have approach it a little differently. But yeah, I feel like the first thing I want to say with grief is, I mean, if someone passes away in your life and you feel a certain way, like if you feel sad feelings, there's nothing wrong with feeling, feelings of sadness or missing. Um, it's just for every person, it's different, and I even feel like it varies in cultures. Does that make? Would you agree, Jose?
Yes, I agree. And in fact, there are different approaches to grief. There is a
Mhm,
clinical approach, there is a psychological approach. There's
mhm,
also, as far as religious values, how different
mhm,
religious viewpoints and traditions, how they deal with grief.
mhm. Correct. Yeah. One of the techniques that I use is from a certain mentor where he came up with a process, but his thing was that he wasn't, I forgot what country he was in. And he was in a small town and he saw a celebration going on. So he walked over there. It was like dirt roads. He walked to that celebration and he asked, "Hey, what's going on? What's the party about?" And one of the guys responded, "Oh, the mayor from the town passed away." And he's like, "And you guys are having a party? You guys are celebrating?" He's like, "That's just how we do it here." And that's when my mentor started thinking,
Mhm.
wow, like grief can be a perspective for certain people. And my brother, he worked for Forest Lawn Cemetery. Forest Lawn is like a big company that they do a lot of they have a lot of properties all around California for the big cemetery company. And he used to be the funeral director, and he used
Mhm.
to see the different cultures, the different, even he's been through like Mason funerals, Hawaiian, Buddhist, and he would see, when I would explain this to him, he would see the difference. He's like, wow, like some cultures they're happy and smiling, some cultures they're rocking the coffin crying. And he agreed with me. He's like, yeah, it's a perspective. But yeah, this mentor taught me a certain process on how to deal with grief, and that's the technique I use. I know a lot of other people, a lot of other therapists use different techniques, but I use this techniques from this mentor. And if you want, I could speak on that technique.
Oh, yes, I would appreciate it. Now, what I
Mhm,
did was I took the liberty of putting the link to join the panel on the chat. So I'm going to encourage
mhm,
everyone If you have a question, please feel free to enter the question in the chat, and then we'll answer it. Because the fact of the matter is, Tim is a very busy individual, so we want to give him the time and the attention that he deserves.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so in this process, the way my mentor explains it is well, first of all, like I said earlier, it's okay if you feel missing feelings. It's okay if someone passes away and you feel down. I think the difference is for how long. Some people feel it for longer than others. Does that make sense? Um, I have a cousin
Mhm.
that her mom passed away. My aunt, she passed away during COVID, and my cousin, her daughter, I mean, sadness is there, but she went on with her life. I think there's like a repeat in my voice. But yeah, she went on.
Yeah, you
She.
know what? Let me
I think it only did it once.
please continue. Yeah,
Hmm.
please continue. It's just that
Okay.
unfortunately I've been dealing with this problem with the internet service, so it comes
Oh,
it, it
okay.
comes and it comes and goes. So they're gonna have a
Okay.
technician that's gonna come in this week to replace the
Hmm.
modem, because that seems to be the problem. And this has been going on for over a
Hmm.
month. I apologize.
It's
Please
okay.
continue, Tim.
Yeah, and so I was just seeing the difference with my cousin. I mean, I'm not saying she's not sad, but she kept going on with her life. Then I had another friend that it was hard for her to operate in everyday life for like a year and a half because her mom died. Same thing. And it just shows me that some people take it different than others. Makes sense. Some people shut down. So I feel the level of the pain depends on the level of attachment and the pedestal, if that makes sense. Do you understand what I'm saying with that?
Yes, I understand. Let me just share with you and with the audience. Within
Hmm.
a 30-year period, I've been to 7 funerals of all close members of my family. And in fact, in 2020, my oldest sister passed away. Uh, she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And then 6 months after that, my mother passed away. So my family, we're still dealing with their losses.
Okay. So yeah, I'll give you a kind of like a little rundown of the process. So there's different columns I do in the process. It's kind of like if you turn a paper sideways and there's different columns. So in the first column, we write down the traits that someone misses. Like, what is it that you miss in this person? Or what are the positive traits of this person that makes you think of them? And some people will put, oh, they were funny, they were my mom, or they were I mean, it's different for everyone. Does that make sense? That it was my husband,
Mhm.
he supported me, he so on and so on. So they list all the positive traits. And before we even start with the process, um, we have to balance them out first. And what do I mean by we have to balance them out? Because my mentor says when we miss someone, we only miss the positive traits. Do you ever notice that we never miss their dirty underwear, their dirty attitudes, we only miss the positive. So however many positive traits we come up with, we have to balance them out and come up with the negative traits, as many negative traits, just to balance them out before we even start the process. So we write down some negative traits. And sometimes for some people, it's hard to do that. It isn't until we start going with the process that we come back and write in some more. Like, I'll give you an example. There was this girl that came in and she couldn't come up with any, like, she came up with 2 negative traits and she had like 10 positive traits. And then after, I'm like, you know what? It's okay. Let's start with the process and maybe they'll pop up after. And as I was going through with the process, she remembered one that I felt was big. And I'm like, man, you forgot about that? She's like, yeah, my it was her dad that passed away. She's like, yeah, well, he had a kid with another lady, and that's one of the negative ones. But as long as we're only seeing one side of the story, this is the whole thing. When you only see one side of the story, just positive or just negative, it's going to fill up your thought space. It's going to run your mind. It's going to run your emotions. It's going to run your biology, and it's going to run your life. Does that make sense? So that's the first column, though. But the main part of the first column is we list the positive traits we miss. And then the next part of the column is it's kind of like I do a little pedestal process. How many people have seen you with those traits? Because what we see in them, we have in ourselves. There's no need to miss them or put them on a pedestal because what we see in them, we have in ourselves. Does that make sense? And I write down names of people who has seen them with those traits from age 0 to now. And sometimes some people come up with 50 names of people that have seen them with those positive traits. Does that make sense? And keep in mind, it's hard to grasp the process because I'm just
Mhm.
explaining it, but I do it on the whiteboard. And then column number 3 is because you see those traits as positive, how is that a negative or a drawback for you? Because you see all these traits as keep in mind in those in the column number 1, I also add in for them the label. What label did they have? Oh, that was my mom. And the history, because the history is all the memories. Make sense? And the other one I gave them is that their family, like for because a lot of people come in when it's grief for family. So because you see all those traits as positive, this is column number 3. How was that a negative for you? I'm like, wow, well, because I see all those traits as positive, I feel like something's missing. I can't function. I'm super sad. And the list goes on. I have to come up with 35 drawbacks, and I'm giving you an example of what they come up with because I see those as positive. Like that young girl that I was telling you, she's like, I've just shut down and been a hermit. I haven't gone outside, and it's been like a year and a half. I haven't, and she even said it herself. She's like, I haven't even functioned to the point where I don't like to come out to outside. I don't like to see reality in a way. Um, and we broke down one of her little traits she had. She didn't like people that showed her reality, so she would become a hermit. Does that make sense? But we kept going with the list because I see, and not only when not only after, like for example, for this person it was a parent that passed away, but even when they were alive, because you saw those traits as positive, how was that a drawback for you? I was dependent on them. I was emotionally attached. I didn't do a lot of things. I wasn't independent because I was so attached to them. Do you understand that part so far, Jose?
Yes, I do. And you know what? And to be perfectly honest, you brought up interesting facts. And I suspect these are some things that my own therapist might be discussing. Now, what I did was I did prepare like a little welcome, like a little video clip. If my
Mhm.
screw will show you. Okay. Okay.
Oh, that was cool.
Okay. I don't
Thanks. Where
know.
did?
Well,
Yeah, yeah. I saw it. Where did you see? Where
okay.
did you make that? I think you muted yourself. There you go. Look.
Okay. Hello.
There you go.
Okay. Can 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 you hear me?
Yes, yes. There you go. Oh,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Um, okay. I cycle place it, and okay.
It keeps going on and
So
off.
why do what problem? The problem with the molding itself,
Mm. You said it's the modem?
but yeah,
Mm.
yeah, because the molding, because
Mm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there is a cycle place where you
Mm-hmm.
can clips.
Okay. You're cutting
And
on and off. It seems like your mic is going on and then off and then on and then off. I can see the little mic thing going on and off.
yeah, okay.
I think now it just stayed off. Can you hear me? I don't think I can hear you. Let me.
Peace.
There we go. Oh, it went off again.
Yes.
Are you
I'm not
pressing it
having.
a lot of? Oh,
No, it's just that when I'm trying to. Okay, I'm seem to be stuck.
there we
Uh,
go. Don't
um.
touch it anymore. There, I can hear you and it's good. We got it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I see.
I was.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. No, I was asking you. Did you understand that part? The drawbacks to seeing the positives in those traits. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Oh wow, he went off. Jose. I think he's having a lot of trouble with his internet. But if anyone is on the chat, say hi. And if anyone has any questions, yeah, ask a question. Yeah, well, we get Jose back on. Yeah, if you're on, say hi. Let's see if he messages me. Jose. Are you there? There you go.
Uh. Okay.
Seems like you're on.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Denise, for your information, it's not a problem with the Wi-Fi. It's with
With the modem.
Yes. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Denise is on. Hello,
Okay.
Denise.
Okay. Okay. For your information, Denise, it's not with the Wi-Fi. It is with the modem itself. So please cut me some slack. Please continue.
Okay, so I'm gonna go over some of the important columns, the most important ones. Well, one, before I go into the next column, sometimes we give a lot of power to the certain traits or even labels and titles. For example, one of the questions I ask them from those positive traits is, if they were the opposite, how would that be a benefit for you? So if they weren't nice, if they weren't supportive, if they weren't that loving person, if that wasn't your mother or father, if there was no history, if they weren't that, how would that be a benefit for you? They're like, wow, I'd be no grief. I wouldn't be as emotional. I would be functioning normal every day. They wouldn't fill up my thought space. I wouldn't care as much. And I just tell them that shows you how much power you're giving to those traits in a way. That's what that question shows you. In reality, all my processes are columns of questions you've never asked yourself. And then the other question I ask them is, it depends. If it was a person that they didn't know their whole life, like for example, this lady with her husband, I asked her who represented those traits before them, because those traits are always present. Life always presents those traits. They just flow through different people. So before your husband came around, who had those traits? They're like, oh wow, that was my dad, my brother, and then my first ex, and then my second ex, my second boyfriend, and they name a list of people, and I'm like, okay, after your husband passed, who took over those traits? Wow, this friend from high school came into my life. My brother got closer to me. I took some of those traits over. Denise is throwing throwing rocks. I'm playing, but yeah. So you never lose anyone. They just change in form. Somebody represented them before, and someone's gonna represent them after. But some people tell me, well, this was my mom. She when I was born, she was already in my life. Okay, in her absence, um, in her absence, who in her absence, who took over those traits when she was alive? And they start naming people like friends, my brother. After she left, who took over those traits? I did a little. My brother did. My aunt came into my life, because you never lose anyone. They just change in form. But here's one of the main parts of the process, because this can get philosophical, but this is the way my mentor taught me. He says, when someone passes, we have to honor the time they chose to leave in the bigger picture, because he says in the bigger picture, these people chose to leave at that moment. So we have to honor that time. So the way it works is, what gifts did they leave for you when they passed? what gifts, what birthed out of that? Because they passed at that moment. What benefits, what birthed out of that? And for example, the lady with that her husband passed away, she's like, well, I became independent. He was macho. He didn't let me do stuff, and now I'm independent. I activated his traits in me. I drive my own car. I pay my own bills. I pay my own taxes. I'm doing certain things that I didn't used to do before. For that young girl that her dad passed, what benefits came out of that? She's like, "Well, I'm being forced to face reality. I'm, I came to you, and I've so far from the sessions that we've had, I've healed a lot. I I'm being pushed to be more independent because I was so dependent on him. I'm embracing my mom more because when he was alive, I hated my mom, and so on and so on. So there's always, I see them as gifts left behind, but I feel like benefits came out of that situation also. Um, yeah, when I had family members pass away, everyone got closer to each other. Um, People the I embraced new people that came in. I became more independent. I became more self-sufficient, so on and so on. So there's always benefits that come out of that. But once you see the gifts they left behind, once you see the benefits, you start to honor the time they left. Because most of the time, the biggest part of the grief is, why did they leave? I even heard an interview from a guy that releases doves at funerals, and they asked him about when his mom passed away, and he's like, I mean, I got sad, but he's like, but I know how to accept reality. One, because I've been to a lot of funerals, but he's like, but two, I see a lot of people asking why, but no one's ever gonna come and tell you why. The whole point of seeing the benefits that came out of it is to see how it was part of the flow and to also honor the time they left. Because in the bigger picture, again, people choose to leave at a certain time. I never forget, Jose. I don't know if you remember this old show called the Montel Williams show. I think it was Montel Williams. Yeah,
Yes,
Montel Williams.
yes, yeah. It was. I think it was on like in the 90s. I think.
Yeah, and I never forget this
Yeah,
story
and
where
I never forget.
this man, it was him and his daughter next to him, and he's like, it was about near death experiences, and he was like, man, I was at a place where I was feeling peaceful. I was feeling so good, like I didn't want to come back, but then I could hear my daughter's voice calling my name, and next thing you know, I felt myself coming down. Then I'm back in the hospital bed, and my daughter's pounding on my chest to come back, and I kind of like cussed her out, like, leave me alone. I was already gone. It sounded kind of funny, but I've seen so many documentaries on near death experiences that most people, when they feel that other side, they don't want to come back. So that just proves to me that they're at a point where they're not in pain in a way. Does that make sense? Um, and I feel, I
Hmm.
go back to my mentors thing too, is that we have to honor the time they left, because at a soul level, that's the time they chose to leave. Now we have to see, because scientifically, every situation that we see as negative is balanced with positive. So let me see what Denise says. I think we're able to go through loss. I think we are able to go through a loss that's so painful and be dependable. As such chaotic time, we become more durable. Yes. And not only that,
Um,
like, go ahead.
yeah.
Um,
No, but I
sometimes,
can't. You know, I agree. I do agree.
go ahead. Yeah, I want your thoughts. Yeah, go ahead.
Go
What's
ahead.
it? No, I was gonna say sometimes it's not
Okay.
even
No,
a.
but I do agree.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tim. Okay. No, but I do agree with Denise's statement. I mean, the fact of the matter is, okay, not like in my case. Unfortunately, I've been to so many funerals in, you know, within a 30-year period. So,
Mm,
you know, you have to try to find some sort of solace and consolation during that time.
Mhm.
Um, Asking, can you name 5 ways to deal with the grief and taking the loss of a loved one?
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, what Denise says, we become more durable. Here's the thing, me as like I'm 41 years old, and if you ask me how many funerals I've been to, probably, I don't know, maybe over 30. The thing is that my parents never hid death from us. My earliest memories, and I confirmed this with my sister talking to her a while back, and I'm like, man, because I kind of realized this with my clients. They're like, oh, I'm going to my first funeral at 35 or my first funeral at 28. I'm like, you've never been to a funeral? And my parents, my earliest memories are playing at mortuaries, going to funerals. I remember the first time when I lived in LA, in deep in LA. This lady from the community died, and this was the 80s. And my mom picked me up, and I saw the, when they sold them out, the old 80s way. Um, I saw that, and I even called it out as a 4 year old. I think I was like 4, maybe even 3. Like, what's in her mouth? And my mom just kind of like slapped me, told me to shut up. But the thing is that I started seeing that at an early age. My little friend that was like my age passed away when I was 5, and yeah, I remember going to his funeral. Um, but I feel like death teaches a part of reality, and the death of a super close person teaches it even more. Where it's kind of like it's part of reality, it's part of life. Um, and I even feel that's one of the benefits that a loved one that passes teaches. Like, hey, this is part of life. Loss can be either something that destroys you, or if you choose it, it can help you build your character even further. Yeah, like I'll give you an example because for some people it's death, but even someone leaving your life is a form of a death. Even a breakup is a form of a death. I've seen people cry more over a breakup than when their aunt or uncle died. Does that make sense? So it's really
Mm-hmm.
that separation in a way. Like, and I'm gonna give you an example with my dad. My dad was a one night stand, so he grew up with two grandmas, and these grandmas were old school. One of my grandmas was born in 1893, the one that raised him. So he got harsh old school bringing up. But my whole point is that my dad knew loss at a young age, that he's the person that I saw that was the strongest when a family member passed away. And yes, he got sad, but he kind of taught us like you got to move on. The show continues. It's like an old saying, the show must continue. And why? Because he had that tough skin since he was 2 years old, since he knew loss at a young age, where he got raised with two old ladies, and he always wondered like, where are my parents? Um, so I feel that taught him reality at a young age. And I always say this: the more you embrace the reality, the less emotional pain there is. And he kind of taught us that, and I feel like that's one thing that I see with my dad that he has. But I'm saying this is because people, I'm noticing it more with this younger generation. Some people don't go to a lot of funerals, and or I don't know if I was different where they took me to a lot of funerals. What do you think, Jose? Did you go to a lot of funerals, and do you see that like people at 28, 30s going to their first funeral?
Uh, the fact, look, what's a sad situation is that in our family,
Hmm.
uh, we only see relatives when someone passes away.
Okay.
That's that is the reality. Um,
Hmm.
I can't say it's for a lot of us is our first funeral because unfortunately, when you take into account uh, not just my immediate family, but also uncles and aunts and cousins and grandparents and what have you. So it's
Hmm.
like for many of us, it is not um, our first funeral. Now, Denise put a comment. I once met a lady that got divorced at 30 and still crying and getting mad over it at age 64.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's, I mean, unfortunately, some people have never fully recovered. Um, I want to encourage everyone, if you please, if you want to join the panel, do so. Um, Unfortunately, the way my Wi-Fi is, if I keep putting in the link, it's going to like screw up the service. So, um, if you're going to join the link, if not, it's perfectly fine. It's just that unfortunately, this has been a problem. I've been dealing with the Wi-Fi with optical cable for over a month, and it seems like every time I try to I try to attach the link, it screws up the service even further. So, if you don't wish to join the panel, that's perfectly fine.
Hmm. But yeah, based
Please
on
continue, Tim.
what Denise said, yeah, that it's like that person stayed at the funeral. She got divorced in her 30s and she's 64, still. What was the words she used? She's 64, still.
The fact, yeah, apparently she never recovered.
Hmm. Yeah. And like for example, that's she stayed at the funeral in a way. And I would tell that lady, what are the positive
Yeah.
traits that you miss from that person? And she'll make a list because you see those as positive. How is that a negative or a drawback for you? I've held on for 30 years. I haven't recovered. I'm still crying about it. He fills
Okay.
up my thought space. So on and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I gotta address this comment. Denise, the
Hmm.
problem is not with the Wi-Fi. It's with the modem itself. So if we're going to talk about my internet service, please be accurate. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, but yeah, we only it's kind of like we the whole science behind what I'm telling you guys about the traits, all these traits are neutral. We give it the negative or positive. Like I'll give you an example. My parents kicked me
Mhm.
out at a young age, so I kind of became independent young, and I but that
Mhm.
helped me bring my parents the anger helped me bring my parents down from the pedestal to the point where a while back, this was like a year ago, one of my sisters was kind of like down because my parents thought something of her, and I'm like, you care what they think? I'm like, I don't care what they think. I'm like, and I told her, you have them on a pedestal. I don't, so I don't care what they think. I love them, but they're just people at the end of the day, and I don't care what they think. And it was hard for her to understand that, but I don't give those positive traits that much power like she does. That lady that Denise is talking about, she's either giving that guy's traits positive traits or the marriage fantasy positive traits. I mean, a positive charge in a way. Because I would ask that lady, if your
Mhm.
husband was the opposite of all those positive traits, how would that be a benefit for you? I'm pretty sure she'd answer, wow, well, I wouldn't care. I would have moved on. He'd be like, whatever.
Yeah.
It would have run my mind. That shows you how much power you're giving to those traits. But I feel in part of my grief process,
Mhm.
I kind of do that, but in a more calm way because it's someone important in their life. Does that make sense? But the reality of it
Mhm.
is death is going to happen. And this is what I do with people. Like, for example, I kind of do a grief process with people before their parents pass away because I want to prepare people for those times in life because no one prepares us for real life. Society just prepares us for the fantasies, but no one ever prepares us for when our mom or brother are going to pass away or sisters. And I'm not saying what I'm gonna do is gonna completely do it. Yes, you're gonna feel sad, but at the same time, you're gonna know how to move on. You're gonna know, because my goal is, when people come for grief, is to help them see how it was part of the flow. We have to honor the time they chose to leave, and we have to see how it was part of the flow. Let's see the gifts they left behind for you. Like that lady, wow, well, he left behind independence. I activated his traits in me. Now I drive, I pay my bills, now I, so on and so on. um but yes, it can be hard at the moment. I've had a lot of people who've passed away in my life. At the age of 12, my grandma used to live with us, and
My grandma used to live with us.
I found her. She was 100 years old, but yeah, she wasn't waking up. And I called my other grandma, and my other grandma didn't want to believe it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna call the ambulance because I think she's gone. But like, I'm gonna give you an example with that story. 2 years ago, I had a friend that her dog died, and she was getting annoyed. Like, you're not sad about my dog? And I'm like, look, I'm sad for you. It sucks. But I found my grandma dead when I was 12. Like, I just have this tough skin. It's hard to explain, but I've ate up reality on death, and I'm sad for you, but it's not as big for me as it is for you. My dog passed away a couple days ago. And yeah, I spent half an hour, maybe not even that, maybe like 15 minutes feeling sad, and then the show must continue. But I've been through this phase. Half of my life I've been through a lot of deaths, and the other half of my life I've been through the deaths doing my processes on myself. So I kind of do this fast. But what do you think, Jose, of everything I'm saying? I don't know if I'm just confusing you.
No, 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 you're not. And in fact, as you was talking, I was just looking at the 7 stages of grief.
Yeah.
Which is the first one is the shock or the disbelief that the
Yeah.
person is no longer with us, and that can happen, and that not just applicable to death, but also like when there's an estrangement within the family or an estrangement regarding friends. I mean, in a way, that's almost like like a mourning process, and the belief, the disbelief that the person is no longer there, because of death, or because some sort of situation where there was an argument or what have you, or there was an issue where
Hmm.
one person, for whatever reason, has seen fit not to have any further contact with you, not accepting your phone calls, and on your text messages and what have you. So the process is the same. There's the shock and the disbelief, and then
Hmm.
there is the denial
Hmm.
that the person's gone, and then there's
Hmm.
a certain amount of anger that's involved. And
Hmm.
then, unfortunately, we get into the situation where we begin to bargain, or what some people do is they'll like second guess themselves as far as certain
Hmm.
things that they felt they should done. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot redo or undo the action that you're taking. And
Hmm.
guys, let's get the likes up, people.
Hmm.
I think this is a
Yeah.
very important topic. So please
And
continue,
the
Tim.
and with the disbelief, sometimes I call it times of forgetting. Where when one of my other grandmas died, I'd be driving by her house, and I'm like, oh, I wonder where my grandma. And then I catch myself like, oh wow, I forgot. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot she's gone. And I feel like for a year, when someone passes, people get that forgetting thing of like, oh wow, I forgot they're gone. They're driving somewhere. They're driving by their house, and that's part of like it goes with the disbelief. But like I said, and I think how Denise said, it's kind of like it depends on the person. It depends on what the person has been through. It depends who it is. If it's mom, dad, brother, sister, it's it's different for everyone. But I feel like, especially if especially if you're a parent, I take everything into consideration. And the reason I'm bringing up if you're a parent is because the way you grieve is the way you're teaching your kids to grieve too. And how would you like them to see you grieve, and how would you like to have them grieve? Because the way I see it is like I don't want my kids to grieve. To I'd rather throw my ashes in the ocean so they won't have a place to go to. But everyone's different. But my whole point is when you take everything into account, when you take, you know what, my kids are gonna see me grieve. There's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with grieving, but it depends on the person, it depends who it is, and it depends, yeah, how you want to in a way be an example for people too. But when a close person dies, like I said, there's nothing wrong with letting out those emotions. You just have to ask yourself how long, because yeah, like I said, I had a friend, her mom passed away, and her husband would call me like, man, like it's been like it's a year and a half already, and sometimes it's hard for her to get out of bed. She's working from home, but she hardly works, and yeah, and I feel like for her it was running her life, that grief, and she didn't want to hear anything from anyone. Her philosophy was, if your mom hasn't passed away, I don't want to talk to you. You can't give me advice. I'm like, okay, well then, I guess I couldn't give her advice, but I just feel like for everyone, it's gonna be different, and it's it's okay to let these feelings out. But I feel like a technique that I tell people to do is write a letter to them, like if they're gonna receive it, if that close loved one is gonna receive it. And once you finish writing the letter, empty yourself out though, negative and positive. What do I mean by negative? Maybe even some negative stuff that you forgot to express. Why did you do this? This always hurt me. But also end it with the positive. But the whole point is empty yourself out. Any unsaid stuff, say it to them. Then some people, what I tell my clients is find an empty chair at your house and visualize them there, and once you visualize them there, read them the letter like if they're going to receive it. So yeah, read them the letter like if they're going to receive the letter. Just because whatever stays bottled in can turn into disorders or diseases. So you have to empty yourself out at the end of something, at the end of a relationship. Some people go to the graves and read the letter. So I have some clients that are like, "Wow, I went to the grave and I read the letter, and it was good. I felt like I got things off my chest, negative and positive." So yeah, that's a technique that I recommend for people. Empty yourself out with them. Um, get everything out, not just the positive, also negative. Sometimes there's some negative stuff, because I get some clients that are like, "My husband passed away, but I'm still pissed off at him." Yeah, and that could turn into something. Does that make sense? So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a comment. It's hard for even a phantom, a mother or father passing, but the way, at the end of the day, the natural course of life, unnatural will be to have them bury me.
Yes. I seen my friend. I went to my. Go ahead.
Okay, but what I doubt with um with the losses of my own family, first of all, acknowledge the fact that I'm grieving, acknowledge the fact that I'm going through a loss.
Hmm.
So of course, as a Christian,
Hmm.
I go to prayer, but I
Hmm.
also sought counseling because
Hmm.
it's just that when you're dealing with a loss, you have so much emotional
Hmm.
baggage, and you need to
Hmm.
try to find a way uh,
Hmm.
to try to bring some order into
Hmm.
the chaos. Um, okay, I think. Okay,
The 18th
okay.
letter.
Good evening, Rakim.
Good
think it's
evening,
Mike.
good evening, Jose. Shout out to my YouTube
No,
dad,
it's
Jose, and shout out to Tim.
How are you?
it's so okay. It's that
It's the modem thing again?
Joaquin. Yeah.
Mm. The- There he goes.
Yeah, it kept kicking me out for some
Okay.
reason.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
evening, Joaquin.
Good evening, Jose, and good evening to Tim. Once again, thank you for
Joaquin.
Good
allowing
evening.
me. Yes, hello.
I think he hears us delayed.
Yeah, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you good, but I think he picks
Yeah,
everything
I
up
think that's
delayed.
what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. I know. I kind of know. Figured that out. That you hear us delayed. Yeah, but yeah, it keeps
Yeah.
kicking him
Okay.
out. Yeah. Tell him to try one more time.
Yeah. Okay. I think okay, Rakim, are you there?
No, I think he went off, but yeah, tell him to try one more time.
Okay, just
Mhm.
Denise, you're not exactly helping things, dear.
Yes, guys. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah. There you go. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I backed out because for some reason I kept getting
Okay.
kicked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say
Oh, I kicked him out again. How does it? How does it keep doing that?
Okay. Now Denise is going to say it's the so-called cricket Wi-Fi. It's the modem.
Mhm. Where
yeah,
are you?
guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted
Oh, there it is. There's the chat.
Okay. Rakim?
Tupac was alive. Now I'm seeing everything. Okay, I didn't know where the comments were. Okay, I see everything now. And shout out to okay. All right, Rakim, try it again. There you go.
Okay, guys.
Say what you gotta say before he kicks you out.
Okay.
Oh, there it goes. Oh man.
Yeah, because this
Yeah, guys. I was just gonna say,
okay, you know what? Tim,
He's on.
just
He's on.
continue. I'm gonna try to add Rakim.
Okay.
Okay. Hello?
Um
Rakim?
Rakim, try to type it in while you're trying to get on. But yeah, keep trying to get on. But what was the last comment other than the cricket one? Oh yeah, it was Denise.
That Tupac was alive when I on.
When you got the modem. Okay. It's hard to
Okay.
even
Hello,
phantom him
Rakim?
other. Um, are you there? No, I don't think he's. I don't think. I don't see him on, but on my side.
No, it's
Hmm.
and I'm afraid if I refresh the server, it's going to kick everybody out again.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
let's
here's another
see.
question. What happens if I plan out how do you think they should approach that grieving process, Tim?
So if oh, I see it now. Okay, there he is. He's on.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, guys. Yeah, Tim. I just wanted to say
Okay.
thank you for your time.
Hello,
For
Rakim?
coming up here, being a licensed therapist, and being able to give us some info on dealing with grief and losses and different things like that.
Okay, so it says what? So if a parent loses a child, but yeah, thank you for that. Um, if a parent loses their child, well, I feel kind of like what Jose brought up, the seven steps to grief. Um, so if they lose a child, I mean that I feel like that's one of the hardest thing a person can go to, losing one of your kids, you know. It's kind of like what Denise said. It would be unnatural, would be them having to bury me. I've experienced my friend's dad's funeral where I saw the grandpa there, and he was just didn't even want to be close to the funeral because he was burying his own son. um but yeah, and losing a child, I feel like again, it's okay to lose. It's okay to go through that grieving process. It's you have to get your feelings out. um but I feel there has to be a point, especially if you have other kids, where you have to eat up the reality. And keep in mind, it's going to be different for everyone. Some people are going to mourn for months, some people may mourn for a year. You're never going to forget that child. um but I feel like in losing a child, you losing a son or a daughter, um, you have to get to a point where you're gonna have to, in a way, eat up the reality and maybe even embrace your other kids. But you have to. I always go back to, you have to eat up the reality that they've passed. They're somewhere better. And like I said, part of my process is, what are they teaching? I feel like when someone passes, they're teaching something with passing at that moment. There's always a lesson in life. It's always like the way I see it, it's always part of the flow. Like Jose said, it's inevitable. So what is the lesson in this? What are the, and the way I do it with my clients is, what gifts did they leave behind? What benefits came out of that? But I feel like that should be done after the hard grief, because I feel like when a child passes, there's hard grief. And I, like I said, my brother and I have another friend that worked at funeral homes, and that was the hardest part for them. They were used to seeing people passing, or embalming different people, dead bodies. But when it came to kids, it was the hardest thing for them. For them, that was the only time they got emotional. um but again, it's part of the reality. It's okay to go through those emotions. You got to get that energy out, but then you got to get to a point where you see how there's a lesson in all of this, for you and for everyone else. um because if you don't see it as part of the flow, you're gonna stay stuck on it forever. And keep in mind, I come from my Mexican descent, and I've seen people just go down in a downward spiral, and even attract the disease and pass away because someone passed away, whether it was a child. So yeah, it's a hard topic to talk about, especially, like, I haven't had a kid who passed away. But if you ask me, Tim, like, if someone asked me, Tim, be blunt with me, what is it? It's like has to be a point where you have to see how it was part of the flow, how it's a reality to embrace, and how there was gifts that were left behind and benefits that birthed out of that situation. Um, like, I'll give you a little glimpse of what my mentor, and he's worked with a lot of people in the Marines, the Army. Um, he says, according to the process we use, and he goes deeper into the process, grief shouldn't last more than 5 minutes for him. I'm not saying for me, but for him, he's so into embracing reality right away that he says, if give me a give me an hour with someone and I'll let go of that grief right after that person passes away. But he's real hardcore and he's real good at what he does. um Look, if you want to look more into his process, his name is Dr. John Demartini, and I think he might have a couple videos on YouTube about that. but just look up Dr. John D. Martini on grief. But Denise says that reminds me of something that my mom said to my aunt when her kid died, but she cursed her out and buried herself in Percocet until today. Yeah, and that's my example for that is my dad. Like I said, he was a one night stand. He saw people die at a young age, and he learned how to eat up reality at a young age to the point where he was the strong. He had like 9 brothers and sisters, and every time a funeral happened, they'd go to him to organize everything because they knew he was the strong one. Yeah, but I don't know if that answered your question, Rakim, or 18th letter. But
yeah, definitely, Tim.
yeah, like if you want my blunt answer, it's like, yes, grief, but there's gonna have to be a point where you're gonna have to eat up the reality. That's why I even made a post on Instagram once, like, everyone experiences a death, but it's just certain people will hold on to the, whatever they hold on to from that person for months, weeks, months, years. Or like how one of my clients told me after I did a grief process with her, like, I held on for 20 years. And in reality, these benefits came out of my life. But yeah, it's really, if you it really asked me blunt, and this is the thing, when you learn how to embrace that reality, you can teach it to your kids and family members. That's what I mean by what do you want to, if you were leading in your family, what would you want to teach them? Yeah, because there are some people that are in real emotional, into like trying to live life like the movies, where they would want their kids to grieve for them a lot. But me, I'm not that person. My thing is, like, I don't want no one to cry for me. I throw my ashes in the ocean. So if you want to remember me, go to the beach, have fun at the beach. But yeah, I don't know if that covered it.
Excuse me. Excuse me, Tim. Denise, if you feel up to joining the panel, the link is there. Defective Wi-Fi or no defective Wi-Fi, but we do appreciate your input. Now she asked another question: why would a person hold on to loss for years? Before Tim can answer that question, the fact of the matter is, I've been dealing with the death of my sister and my mother for 2 years. Okay. And I still haven't fully recovered. But what I try to do is I try to remember, the type of people that they were. And, and in the case of my mom, just remember the life lessons that she taught me. So that's how I deal with their loss. Tim, you want to share your expertise?
So why would a person hold on to a loss for years? I mean, every person is different, and the hold on is different for certain people. Like the one you explained, Denise, just shutting down or drowning in, or I forgot how you word. What does it say? Buried herself in Percocet. That's a certain level of holding on. Some people are just sad going to work every day. Other people, like the lady that I was talking about for 20 years, she would just shut down in her room to the point where her husband didn't have a relationship because a family member passed away. So for the hold on is different for everyone. And what makes people hold on, it depends on what they hold on to. Sometimes they hold on to the person. Sometimes, like the old style Mexican is, if a husband died, that was my husband, I can't remarry. So they hold on to that memory of that relationship until the day they die. It depends on the culture. It depends on what they're holding on to. My thing is, I feel like they're either holding on to, I can't even see okay, there we go. They're either holding on to positive traits from that person, or they're holding on to the fantasy. It's one or the other, or both. Does that make sense? Because some people, they just hold on to, and what I mean by the fantasy is like that lady, there's, like I said, the old Mexican way is, wow, that was my husband and that was my only relationship, and that culture fantasy is just holding it on tight. and she's gonna take it to the grave. Some people, like, I'll give you an example with it's kind of related in a way. Like this girl client that I had, it was hard for her to get over a relationship. But one of the positive traits she mentioned to me was, that's my twin flame. That's my soulmate. There's no one else. And I'm like, okay, so you're trapping yourself in a way. I get it. He was a person that was for you, but he doesn't want to be with you no more. But she was in a way saying, like, I can't let him go because that's my soulmate. That's my twin flame. And that fantasy is what kept her held on for a couple of years. It wasn't that long. Where once I brought that twin flame fantasy down from the pedestal, she kind of realized, like, wow, like I was trapping myself. It was running my life. But I feel the same thing can be applied with death of a family member, death of a loved one. That's what I feel like people should ask themselves. But I feel like another question is, whatever you miss in them, who took over their traits? Who in your life is now representing those traits? Who came to your life to represent those traits? And that's something, whoever's listening, think about that. Like, who took over their traits once they left my life? Like, was it me? I maybe activated those traits in myself. This person came into my life. This person came into my life. This person texts me a lot in that way. Because nothing is ever missing. It just changes in form. So think about that. Like, who took over those traits? I don't know if that answers your question, Denise. Yeah, I think when it comes to husbands, I remember it is a tough one and almost impossible, because I think that's a mark that would stay there forever, in my opinion. And I've had some clients where they're like, I'll give you an example. I had a client that her husband died, but then she started looking for another relationship, and she got into a relationship, but she wasn't really having an issue with it. It was more the guy. The guy was having an issue, like, oh, she misses her dead husband. I'm like, does she post him a lot? No. Does she talk about him a lot? No. And she's like, he doesn't even let me leave the kids at the guy's parents' house, the grandparents, because he's so insecure or whatever. But it was the guy that had the problem of, like, he misses the dead family, the dead ex-spouse in a way. But I think when it comes, okay, so, but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, a lot of things come into account. It can be culture, it can be the titles, the labels, because sometimes I ask people, like, I had this client, he thought he was suicidal, but I think he was just trying to get attention. But since I kind of saw it, and he kind of knew too, I kind of told him, like, look, if you think you're gonna send a message with your death, the reality of it is, apart from immediate family, 2 weeks later, people are gonna forget. I said, apart from immediate family, and the show's gonna continue. And I even told him, I'm pretty sure you've had some family members that you didn't even go to their funeral. This guy started cracking up, laughing. He's like, you know what? You're right. I didn't even go to my aunt's funeral, and I was close to her. I'm like, exactly. So don't think you're going to send a message. Might as well live your life to the fullest. And just, that's another part of death that no one talks about. And that's kind of the way I kind of see it sometimes. It's kind of like, apart from immediate family, the show's going to continue for everyone else. So might as well live your life to the fullest. I feel that's another side of death that can teach you know what, just live your life to the fullest, because other than immediate family, we're forgotten right away, in a way, by other people. And it's just the reality of it. And that's what it kind of helped that client realize, where he was like, wow, you know what, you're right. I didn't even go to my aunt's funeral. I'm like, yeah, some people aren't even going to go to your own funeral because they're busy working and they might not get it off work. That doesn't mean they don't love you. It's just the reality of things. I know today for a fact that I prefer if I go before Justin, because I want to move on. Yeah. And And these are the questions that people don't these are the kind of things that people don't prepare for. But I feel like in preparing, like what you just said right now, Denise, I know for a fact that I prefer, but even then, like you can prepare not only psychologically, but even like in life insurance and everything. You never know, so let's prepare everything. um I'm paying for my mom's life insurance because it's gonna happen one day, and we have to be ready on all sides. And I feel like that's another side of death that a lot of people don't prepare for too. But yeah, it's like it's gonna happen. It's try your best to prepare emotionally. You're never fully gonna prepare, but prepare on all sides and on all levels. When I started teaching my brother this, he started teaching his son, I'm gonna die one day, so you got better eat that reality up. And I like that he told his son that. I was like, oh wow, like he's really telling him. And he tells his son that very often, like, look, you gotta create your own path, do your own thing, because I'm gonna die one day. And I kind of like was surprised by that. But yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah.
But,
I had a
Joaquin, go ahead,
yeah,
Joaquin.
Jose. No, I was just gonna say, I had a quick question. Yes, you're absolutely right, Tim, because
Mhm.
that was something I was raised by my grandmother, and to be honest, I'm still dealing with that grieving process. She passed away 2 years ago, and like what
Mhm.
you were saying, she was pretty much my support on everything. And she was one of those people that you can come to and speak to about any and everything. So it's been a little rough, but
Mhm.
she prepared me that same way that you said that your brother was preparing your nephew.
Yeah.
She told me that I'm not I need you to, get things in order, be prepared for, what you're going to do in your future, because I'm not going to always be here. She told me that as a teenager.
Mhm.
And she told me, how to prepare myself and different things like that. And one of the things that she did that I admired, that she did so much, because cancer runs in our family, and um she lost two brothers, I believe. She lost two brothers and one
Mhm.
sister to cancer. Well, she had bought burial plots back in the 70s when they were much more cheaper, and she held
Mhm.
on to those burial plots. And when um her brother died, she had a burial plot to help, so the family wouldn't be left with that financial burden of trying to buy one. When her sister passed away, she had a burial
Mhm.
plot for her, and she even gave another one to her husband, who passed away shortly after she did. And she
Mhm.
had, no, it was five. I'm sorry, it was five of them. And she
Mhm.
but when it was her time and she was getting close to um passing away, she made sure that I had the paperwork to take care of a burial plot that she already paid for, that was for her.
Mm.
And when she passed away, and I think it's important that a lot of people teach their children those, realities,
Mhm.
and to prepare, so a lot of
It's
kids are
real.
not left with a burden on trying to, deal with
I
that on their own.
I admire her for that. That she ate up reality, and she was teaching reality in a way. And talking about this, everything happens for a reason, and it's. I saw this little. I follow this YouTube channel. I'm not even subscribed to it, but it's this guy down south in Georgia. He looks up old cemeteries. It's called Sidestep Adventures, and he looks up old cemeteries in old army cemeteries. But what he was noticing on certain episodes, because I've been watching this guy for like the last week, and then I was building up in episodes, and he would go to these slave cemeteries, but they would only have like a stone. And he always wondered why, until finally I saw an episode where there was a guy that would talk. He was an older guy, and he would talk to the older people in the community, And he finally asked one of the older men in the 80s, like, hey, how come the slave cemeteries only have like a stone there? Is it because they couldn't afford the headstone? And he's like, no, if we wanted to, we could have pitched in and got the headstone. But that's part of from the old country. So he was saying, and he's like, from the old country in Africa, we went to bury someone at the cemetery. And the reason we didn't put a headstone is because once we buried them, our grief stayed there. It was done. We weren't going back to the cemetery unless we were burying someone else. So I'm explaining this because I just remember this, and it goes back to the culture and perspective on grief. And I kind of like that, like their philosophy on like, okay, once we bury this person, the grief stays here. And maybe even in those times, there was less things to show as memories. I feel like now people may be taking death harder because of social media. We have so many pictures. We have pictures with our phones. I even have a picture in my phone. So I feel like there's more tools to remind us, I guess. But I kind of like that from that documentary. I was like, man, these people just left the grief there and it was done. And no headstone because we don't want to come back and cry over something. I just admired that. Yeah. But yeah.
And also, I was gonna say, do you think also dealing with the loss of loved ones, it can also depend on the type of death that you're dealing with? Like, for instance, it may be easier to deal with the loss of a child, as far as dealing with the loss through illnesses, or maybe it was some type of accident versus a murder, or homicide or something like that.
Yeah. I do get clients that, depending on the way they died, that's more of the pain part than even missing them. It's like the way they died. I saw a lot of those in COVID. My aunt died and this person died, but they suffered for like 3 days and then they were gone. And the songs ruin you with memories. But yeah, it's the way they died can play a role. And sometimes the way they died, for example, some people feel relief when someone with that had cancer for like 2 years. When they pass away, some people feel like, man, in a way I feel better because they were suffering for 2 years. So it can go both ways in a way. Does that make sense? Some people are relieved that they're not in pain anymore. And some people, yeah, like you said, yeah, there's some people that they feel because of the way they died, they feel like sad for them, or they still feel like pain for them. This is what I recommend a lot of people to do. Some of my clients that come in, I have them either see documentaries, or even on YouTube, they're like for free, on near-death experiences, so they can realize that most people feel peace. I've even seen interviews of people that have got shot, and they say they feel this peace before they felt they were dying. And I've seen like 3 of those interviews where they're just like, no, this peace took over me where I wasn't even feeling pain. And there's this psychologist that says that there's a part of the person that checks out before they die. And that's why sometimes they're even seeing like past people that have passed away before them. But there's that part of them that already checks out in a way from the body. But it's I think it's still a theory. It's not like a official thing. I don't know if that helped, Rakeem.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you once again for your time, Tim, being able to come up here and share and share some of your experience as being a therapist with us, and being able to give us advice on dealing with grief, especially in troublesome times and being in troublesome situations. So thank you once again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say is you're never gonna be fully prepared for grief 100%. Like, it's impossible. You're never gonna be fully prepared for it. You're gonna go through some grief. It's just, I feel like it comes to a point where you can decide how long it's the length. I think it's up to you in a way. Speaking for myself here, I think this is better when you know through an illness that a loved one is leaving soon than a sudden death. You get to prepare better. Yeah, it's true. Because those are the surprises in life when out of nowhere. Yeah, those are the when I was in college, I had a human anatomy class. Was it human anatomy or human biology? Well, anyways, we went to the LA County. I forgot what the office is called. It's basically the big morgue for LA County, and they show us some of the bodies there, and they show because they take us to one body where they donated their body to science, and they show us some muscles. But sometimes they show us other bodies, and the guy had just came in with his FedEx shirt and everything. He got into an accident in the freeway, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy just came in, and yeah, it just kind of just happened." But that's the surprise. Like, and I was just thinking, man, his wife's gonna get the call, his kids, like, they're gonna. It kind of sucks, but I get what you mean. The sudden, when you mentioned that, it reminded me of that story of that just out of nowhere, like stuff could happen, and you get that call, and it sucks because death is for us. The deceased knows nothing of it after they're gone. It's true. That's so true. I like that quote. Death is for us. The deceased know nothing about it after that.
Yes.
That's why I highly recommend looking at documentaries on near-death experiences.
Yeah.
Joaquin, I just want to show you the little intro that I gave Tim. One moment. If my Wi-Fi. Okay. Well.
Okay. Any other questions? Because I gotta get going in a bit.
All right. Yeah, Tim. Because
yes.
one thing,
Well, first of all, thanks.
I kind of heard you. Yeah. No problem. And thank you for having me.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And what was your question,
Tim?
Rakim?
Thanks. Thanks again because. Okay.
I know it's delayed. I like that quote, Denise. Death is for us, not for the deceased. Yeah, they're gone. Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. No, you left me all alone here. But yeah. Any other questions? Jose, your Cricket wireless modem can't support playing those videos, man. Oh, it was the video that did it. All right, Jose, I'll wait till you come on. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Rakim, 18th letter. Now let's get Jose back on. Cricket wireless. Have you been, Denise? Make a post about it, and I'll repost that quote because that's a good quote. Post it on your Instagram, and I'll repost it. Yeah, that's a good quote. There you go, Jose. I'm afraid to go because then you're gonna get off and it's gonna turn off. Denise, I think you should come up here and help him. He keeps throwing him off. Let me see if he's messaging me. Okay. Are we still on? I'll do the quote later. Oh, sorry to hear that about your mom. I'll do the quote later. Okay, sounds good. So Jose, I don't know if Jose is coming back on. Jose, are you there? Denise, I have a question. If I leave the podcast, will it turn off or is he gonna still be on? Is that him? No. Jose. Are you there, Jose? Anyways, any other questions? Any other questions from anyone? Okay, I don't know if he's gonna come back on, but I gotta get going, everyone. But yeah, thanks for being on. Thanks for logging on, Denise, Rakim. I don't know who else is on. I can't see. And Kfit now. Other than that, I think I'm gonna log off, but I'm not sure if Jose's gonna come on, so I don't know if it's gonna churn off. Update your modem if Biggie was alive when you got it. And say goodbye. He will still be on, but he can end it. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, other than that, I think Jose will jump back on in a bit once he figures it out. So yeah, other than that, peace, blessings. I'm out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, Denise. Bye, 18th letter and K-Fit.
Okay. Okay. I just want to apologize. I've been having a lot of trouble with the Wi-Fi. First of all, I just want to thank Tim for his expertise. Really do appreciate the fact that he did volunteer his time. Um, I think I am going to end it. Now, what I'm going to do is before I end it, I'm gonna put in the link. If anyone wants to join me in the backstage briefly, we will talk. Otherwise, I'm just okay. Denise, I'm in the process of dealing with that. Okay, thank you very much. But as I was saying, I do appreciate everyone who entered their comments in the chat. K-Fit, Denise, the 18th letter. A special shout out to Tim Gallo with his words of wisdom. One way or another, this issue is going to be resolved because the fact of the matter is, all of you deserve quality broadcast. So I do apologize for that. I am in the process of getting this situation resolved. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to discuss what's going to be happening. Now, this coming Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to do a live stream where I'm going to conduct an interview with a person named Sanson Santon. For those of you who are not familiar, she is another YouTube creator who is a good friend of K-Fit now. And she produces different products when it comes to soap and other things. She has quite a platform, and she recently gave an interview with K-Fit and her father on a podcast that they shared together on Facebook. Now on Sunday at 7 p.m., by then the issue with the Wi-Fi has been rectified, will be rectified. It's going to be a shout out to all the mothers, being that it is Mother's Day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give some observations on the role of mothers. Okay. Actually, she's a friend of K-Fit. And I just recently subscribed to her channel. In fact, what I'll do, Denise, if you're interested, I'll send you the link to her channel in Instagram so you can take a look for yourself. So she's going to be the next person that I'm going to be interviewing. And by then, I will show you by then, hopefully the situation with the Wi-Fi will be resolved. Let's see. Okay. Believe me, Denise, I am in the process of doing that, and I'm even thinking about switching providers because this has been going on for over a month. And the problem is not with the Wi-Fi itself, it is with the modem. So next Sunday, I'll do a shout out regarding the mothers. The following Sunday, which is the 15th, we're going to do a live stream regarding the issues in dating single parents. And I did not, first of all, Denise, I did not shop at Walmart. The modem was provided by Optimum Cable. So please, if you're going to say anything, at least get your facts in order. Or this is a millennial thing. And May the 22nd, we're going to have another live stream in Spanish. Let me just say a few words about that. El 22 de este mes vamos a tener nuestro próximo stream completamente en español y se llevará a cabo a las 7 de la noche y vamos a hablar cómo mantener nuestra cultura. Lo que pasa es que en la diáspora latina, okay, well, you know what? Thanks for the info. ¿Qué pasa? Es que después de la primera generación, lo pasando generaciones, poco a poco están perdiendo su raíz y su cultura. Entonces vamos a hablar cómo mantener nuestra cultura. Y yo estoy refiriendo a la cultura latina. So, we're going to be discussing how we can maintain our cultural roots past the first generation of the Latina diaspora. So that being said, I'm going to end the stream. I'm just going to put the link one more time. If anyone wishes to join me on the backstage, I'll be there waiting for a few minutes. Otherwise, if not, then I'm going to get ready for tomorrow, which is I'll be going back to work. That being said, I do appreciate all the people who have, even with the midst of all, has supported this channel. And the fact of the matter is, it's a milestone that I have received, that I've gotten 60 subs. It may not be a lot for a lot of people, but it's a milestone nevertheless. So what I'm going to do is, no, I did not buy. Okay, no, I did not bought it in the DR. Okay, no. You know what, Denise? You're more than welcome to share your bobs in the backstage if you wish to. Otherwise, it is what it is. So I'm gonna close the same way that I always close. Do not let the errors of the past damage your future. And we must do everything possible to minimize our contact with the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by their stupidity and massive insanity. That being said, this has been another episode. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Thank you, Denise, for... Okay, let me just... Thank you, Denise. The fact of the matter is, you was the inspiration for me to have my channel in the first place. So I really do appreciate it very much. And so the next goal is, of course, to get more subs. I do plan to have a celebration probably when I reach 100 subs. And of course, I'll invite everybody, and I hope you all make your presence felt. And that being said, this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. So take care, have a blessed night, and peace out.